The truth has finally been revealed for this Pittsburgh Steelers camp standout and fan favorite. And in this video, we're going to go over what this move means for him, what this means for his position group, and just why it happened. My name is Tamir Jean-Charles. This is Steelers Digest. If you guys are not subscribed, please get subscribed. That number on the bottom needs to come up. And in the last game, as Pittsburgh Steelers get into their game tomorrow against the Panthers, after that, we'll be headed into the regular season. So, as you guys have heard, or if you haven't heard, Pittsburgh Steelers fan favorite and camp standout, undrafted free agent out of Memphis by way of Oxford, Alabama, Rock Taylor was released after the Steelers game against the Buccaneers. This was a surprising move, to say the least, just because of what he offered at Memphis in his senior year, 66 catches for 950 yards, only 2 touchdowns for a guy of his size. You'd want to, see more touchdowns because you just want to see that he can be more valuable in the red zone. But this was a guy that got released, and before I get into his play style and what he can offer to a team, the reason why this was surprising was just because he got into Mike Tomlin's doghouse, as we've been saying, and as people have been saying. He has a no fighting tolerance. So most likely in that joint practice against the Buccaneers heading into the preseason game on Saturday, he probably got into a scuffle, probably something he shouldn't have got into, whether it was warranted or not. They released him for it. This was very, very sudden. He's in a lot of competition in that group, as you know, other than DK Metcalf and most likely Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, that group is really up for grabs in terms of multiple spots. Wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Just because Robert Woods is a great blocker and he's a veteran, that position is probably cemented for him on this roster. But other than that, if you can go through the whole room, it's DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, who I will talk about in another video because the organization has very, very high hopes on him, as do I. And Ben Skoranek, excellent blocker. Robert Woods was Rock Taylor, but not anymore. Keyshawn Williams, who I will talk about in this video. And Max Herman out of Notre Dame, who is a complete freak in terms of just what he can do. He's an athlete in college, played corner, running back, receiver at Notre Dame, and he's a big, big, big special teams guy at Colgate, all Patriot League, first team for special teamers. And that's something I want to get into as well as I talk about Rock Taylor in this video. He's 6'2", 214, was a deep threat for Seth Hennigan in that Memphis offense, was their number one receiver by far on that team. And here's what I will say about what happened. Like, to give a bit of context, our long snapper Christian Kuntz did get hurt, so maybe someone had to be a liability in moving roster spots and moving places, and whatever that may be. But I do want to say that if you're being drafted, right? And I know last video I said I didn't like the combat. I still don't, right? But you got to provide a bit of context. If you're being drafted to a team, and regardless of if you're 3rd or 4th rounder, it doesn't really matter where you're drafted. No, the money's the only thing that matters at that point. But getting back to what I'm actually talking about, if you're being drafted and that team doesn't have a clear role for you or something that you will be doing on day one, like Caleb Johnson is a 3rd round draft pick, and he did return, I think, 1 punt or a couple punts against Tampa Bay in this last preseason game. So there's a bit of that special teams upside. But even though he's a 3rd round draft pick, that's the guy who we believe and the organization believes that can replace Najee Harris and replace or even exceed his production as a Pittsburgh Steeler. So they have a role for him, and they have something that he's going to do. If you are a big fish, coming in a small pond, now you're a small fish in a big pond, and the wide receiver room is filled up with guys who can do what you can do, may be a little bit undersized, but they can block better than you, or they have better special teams upside, you've got to provide value somewhere else. And the reason why I say this, and you're like, well, why didn't we release Max Hurlman? He's 5'11", 200 pounds, and that's almost 6 foot. And the guy I want to talk about next, Keyshawn Williams, is just because, and both of these guys made plays. Max Hurlman caught the first touchdown against Jacksonville for our first preseason game. Keyshawn Williams made a couple plays in that game and made a couple plays in the Tampa Bay game. So if I'm Rock Taylor and I'm making plays, I'm also fighting in practice, or I'm getting into Tomlin's doghouse. And then I've got other guys who are under me that are doing the same thing I'm doing, not being a problem, and offering upside on special teams. You kind of give the Steelers really no other option. Now, yes, Rock Taylor can still make the practice squad. It's not saying that he can't make the practice squad. He can still do that. And I do want to add, Rock Taylor was a part of that Memphis team that was 25th ranked at one point in the nation. So not a scrub by any means. Keyshawn Williams spent 5 years at he spent 5 years at Wake Forest. Then he transferred to Indiana for 1 year. They were at one point the 23rd ranked team in the nation. His senior year, he caught 39 balls for 448 yards and 5 touchdowns. So you could see the touchdown production is more than Rock Taylor's, but also it's about versatility. Like the NFL, it's something I'm learning. The NFL is about what else can you offer, right? So if you can do one thing, and you can do this one thing very well, then you need to be able to do this better than the guys we already have on the roster. Or you need to be able to compete against these guys on the roster at this one thing so we can move you up. But Keyshawn Williams, 5'9", 188 pounds, 23 years old, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Another Pennsylvania guy, so Pittsburgh loves these in-state guys anyways. He's a guy that offers special teams. He was a kick returner and a punt returner for Wake Forest. Did the same thing for Indiana, and he also for both teams. But he also has jet sweep, quick passing game value that Rock Taylor just really doesn't have. He doesn't have that long speed. Keyshawn Williams ran a 4.5 at the combine, but at the same time, this is what I was talking about the combine in the last video. It's not about straight line speed, right? Now, if I put you on a jet sweep or a jet toss, can you get outside? Can you turn up field with your pads on? Can you make people miss? Can you, if you're not making that first person miss in terms of elusiveness, can you stiff arm? Can you do you have that little bit of Malik Neighbors-esque to where guys just fall off you or just bump off you? And this is what the Pittsburgh Steelers look for. So I know this was a lot for Yinzers because, every year there's a camp standout and there's a guy who we're all saying, okay, this is an undrafted guy out of wherever, and we want him to make the team, but you've got to be able to offer stuff on the field, first of all, and not get into petty arguments off the field, and especially get on the bad side of the head coach who you're trying to impress to make the squad. So Rock Taylor was released. He still has a chance to make the practice squad to provide a bit of value, but with the wide receiver room we have and the hopes and dreams that this organization has and Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson to step up and be 2s and 3s or be joint 2s, to Robin DK Metcalf as Batman, it was really going to be hard for him to make the squad. And Max Hurlman out of Notre Dame, Keyshawn Williams out of Indiana, those two guys just provide special teams and other things, right? They can play other positions. They work hard, like I say, on special teams, whether that's defensive, being a gunner, whether that's returning punts. So, got to find ways to be valuable in life and in the NFL. This is another one of those Yinzers. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? Should he have stayed on the team? Is a fight, in the preseason something you'd want to see out of somebody who's fighting for his life to make a roster spot? Just let me know. But like I said at the start, final game of preseason against the Panthers tomorrow night, and then we've got Justin Fields reunion in New York against the Jets, week 1 of the 2025 NFL season. All right, Yinzers. See you later.